Huh.
Yeah, the mine that's up there, the one that I was looking at the most, I've been underground in it, down to the very bottom,
Really?
240 feet.
Uh-huh.
They call it the glory hole. The cave would go in, and then it had a very sandy slope that would go down to the treasure room. And then the bear hole was actually put in probably in the early 1900s sometime. Somebody else had found it, and they would have rather tunneled to it than to have to pull all that treasure up the slope. But unfortunately, when they got around the door that was in there and into that room, it was a big empty room, probably my best estimate, I mean, under headlamps and stuff, I would say this room was probably 60 feet wide by 70 feet long and 35 to 40 feet tall
Huh.
and completely empty. There are some people who actively drive them roads on a regular basis. They're up there searching for any more treasures that are left. There has been silver and gold bars and as well as Roman coins found
Huh.
on Hoyt Peak. And I myself, I was down about 185-foot level in the glory hole. And I found myself in a position where I was actually had to squeeze around this big boulder. And then when I got on the other side of it, everything I tried, I just couldn't get back around it. I would get hooked on everything. So I actually ended up stripping down and took some of the clay and rubbed on me, and I slid around the obstruction after throwing my clothes up there, and right in front of my face was a copper bracelet.
Wow.
I showed it to a very well known explorer, and his first exclamation was, "Oh my gosh, that's Minoan." And now the Minoan people, they were on an island off of the coast of Greece, and they completely disappeared around 1500 BC. And my belief is what had actually happened is there was a volcanic eruption on Manoa that wiped out probably 90% of the island. Well, the Romans, they could see this big plume of smoke and ash out there, so they jump in their ships and they go out there. And honestly, the Minoan people, here comes a ship, everything's just been destroyed. They're going to happily get on that ship to be saved, right? I would. But then, in turn, the Romans take them back and sell them as slaves to the Spanish who brought them here to mine gold.
Mm.
And it was a slave bracelet, is what my friend called it.
Huh.
And he did a spectrometer on it and everything else, and he was absolutely positive. So that would make that bracelet about 4,000 years old
Wow.
here in Utah, mining gold.
Huh.
So, it's been happening here for a lot longer than I think we even realize.
Yeah.
Now, Brandon, he's really done a lot of looking into lake levels, and I'll let
Yeah.
you
Uh-huh.
take it over,
Yeah,
brother.
watermarks here. The upper watermark is at 5,300 feet, and a mile is 5,780 feet. So, it's right there that maybe that was the ice wall that was holding back a great big body of water, such as Bonneville. So maybe Bonneville was larger than we thought, and we could sail from here to California, from Canada down into Mexico. I mean, these ships are, I'm guessing, anywhere from 15 to 30,000 years is where I'm kind of going to start the age on, because the two watermarks there, the lower watermark is 15,000, the upper one is 30,000. So that tells me, like, there's our starting numbers. It could be older than that. And if the deluge is true, like the flood, then we were totally surrounded by water. And then these Rocky Mountains would have been the first island chains. So as the water receded down, Bonneville would have been trapped, and there would have been an upper body of water people would have been sailing on. And the old fable, like, don't sail to the edge of the earth or you'll fall off. Think of Washington, Oregon area is like a spillway, basically, for ships. So if you would have sailed all the way to the northwest and there was that mile-high ice wall on an upper body of water, you could have sailed off the edge. So it's kind of crazy, you know. There's always a little truth, I think, in some of these old fairy tales. So
Yeah. So let's back up to the beginning of the ships. Then.
Yeah.
Will you just talk about like how? I mean, what are the ships?
So far, what we've been able to find is they're 450 feet long, and there's multiple ships. There's one that's 450. There's what looks to be like a great big raft that's about 1,500 feet, and then there's another one that's around 300. Is that the one?
Yeah.
250 to 300.
Yep.
So yeah, we've got 3 vessels within about a mile of each other. So
And where are they at?
out on the salt flats. So they've been locked out there in the salt flats for a long time. I'm excited to find out exact years, and once we get some assistance to get some research kicked off, then we'll be.
Even when we ask questions about the area out there and stuff, we've always been passed off. And I mean, we've honestly gone through. Brandon has gone through extensive lengths. He's contacted the Air Force, which, of course, in their infinite wisdom, contacted us back with, "Dude, we don't have ships in the Air Force. You need to call the Navy."
Yeah. So then I actually got kicked over to the Navy, the Historical Foundation of the Navy. They had no clue, no iota of what it was. I've talked with the state. I've talked with multiple archaeologists now. The plan is to go out there with a private archaeological firm and then do our own research. Basically, we can go out there, do a surface just a scratch, because I guess
It's like 6 inches.
Yep, 6 inches, I think, roughly, whatever the topsoil is. So we can have them write a report. We can take that to the state and then do our own archaeological discovery. And I'd like to parlay this with like a TV series that is like every day that we're out there doing stuff, it's going to write its own.
Yeah.
I look at some of these shows that have been making it for a lot of years. I can't name exact names, but there's some that have been out there for like 10 years, and they're
their
looking down a
episodes-
wishing well, and that's it. Like I'm like,
We watched one the other day, and I was like, look, that was 93 when that show was made, and they're still airing it daily today. And it's multiple shows that are like that. And we would really like
a reality TV series
A
that just
reality
writes its
TV
own.
series.
Like that's how I don't know. That's how I envision this, is something that is
From-
every day we go out, we're
Yeah.
going to find new stuff, possibly new remnants of people. I imagine if something got buried in that vast of a manner, there might be a lot of history still there. So
Yeah, because as we look at the one ship and we look at it from overhead, the way it lays, and it looks to me like there was some kind of very large wave. Maybe there was, and I've even theorized that this could have been a time when the meteor hit in Arizona. Now that meteor all of a sudden throws all the water up, and it sucks all the water out of here.
it just
And
vaporizes.
so these ships are sitting on the ground, and then all of a sudden the water comes back, picks them up on the front of the wave, and then just crashes them into the seabed. And so they would just break up and tumble. And as I look at them, that's what I envision or imagine has happened to these ships.
Yep, definitely. That's one of the theories that we've gone over. Is it's
Some
called
of-
Meteor Crater down in Arizona.
Yeah.
It's you can see like the circumference, and it was heading in a northeastern direction. So if you can envision a body of water that was from the Rocky Mountains all the way to California, and a meteor strikes that, it's going to vaporize the continent, and basically where Moab is, all the sandstone, I think that was just sandblasted.
Yeah.
When it turned into steam, it was vaporized, pushed everything to the southeast towards Arizona, Texas. You can kind of see that floodplain, actually. If you look right there, you can pull up Meteor Crater. So that tells you if that meteor struck a body of water that was possibly 1,000 feet deep, or 2,000 feet, if depending on where the deep trenches would have been.
Yeah.
It would have
Everything
vaporized and just,
Everything on the upper edges, as the water collapses in and blows back into the air, is going
And
to
zoom out now. Let me show you real quick. I'll walk over here, give you a little zoom out just a touch. There you go. Look at all this red. So I think the meteor struck, and then it created a tidal wave that pushed out to the northwest. I mean, how many different? We've been theorizing now for about 2.5 years on this one.
2.5 years now,
And for reference, they say that Lake Bonneville went away like, 15,000 years ago or something?
Yes.
yes. And we're thinking that the size of the ships, and now because each one of these ships have over a dozen mooring stones, and some of these stones were drug a half a mile.
Uh-huh.
And then the ropes snapped, and you can see the ropes laying by the stones and everything else.
But I mean, this would be then a civilization like before any civilizations that we really have records of now, right?
Exactly. And I think that's why we've had a hard time with it too, because generally the mainstream public doesn't see any civilizations before our own.
Uh-huh.
And it's hard for them to understand that the Earth, I believe, has been through several resets
Uh-huh.
where a catastrophic event has happened and wiped out almost all of human civilization. Even in theological means, they talk about the deluge or the flood. That was designed to wipe out everybody, but if you're in the Christian faith, Noah. I had an Indian elder tell me that there were more than one Noah, so don't be fooled.
Uh-huh.
Another thing that's kind of cool is Nephi and Lehi's story
Yeah.
that's out there. You know, we live in Utah. There's Nephi, Lehi here. There's a story about a ship that was sailed somewhere.
Yep. And
Went to a
nobody's
promised land.
Huh.
So
exactly. And
there's a lot of different.
the promised land is the key term there. And
Yeah.
because Brigham Young came here as the promised land.
Uh-huh.
There was a short period of time where Joseph Smith disappeared. They don't talk about it very much, but I believe he came here, and I honestly have always believed that he was shown the Kershanav, where he retrieved the gold plates from for the Book of Mormon. In other time periods, the Aztecs and the Incans heading northward to a place that they referred to as Aztlan.
Yeah.
I mean, and if all of these places just happen to be here, it's very understandable, because
Absolutely.
if we were looking at 60 to 80,000 years ago.
Yep. So the Jesuits
Then-
were here as well
yeah,
before
the
the Spanish.
Jesuits.
So the Jesuits were a Northern Roman Greek that was.
Yeah.
I mean, they were trading here way before the Spanish
yeah,
were here.
we-
So
And
if
that's
this
what
was
I mentioned earlier, is we have found Roman coins in
yeah,
Uintas
so
as well.
if Aztlan was an ancient island that was out there, and then Lake Bonneville just disappeared, the people would have been just distraught, got the hell out
Yeah.
of here. They would have moved down south. I would envision, at least, get out of the mud hole, because it would take. I mean, think of how long it would take if all of a sudden something that you were sailing on and living on and eating on disappeared.
It was the salt
And
fall.
you just thought it was
Almost
because
overnight.
something. Oh, why did the creator do this? They don't realize that there was a great big ice dam that could have given way and just drained. But so they just assumed, oh, there's a cataclysm. We need to move down south.
Okay. I can buy into, maybe there are civilizations that are around that, before were able to, they were so destroyed that the remnants of them are gone. And then maybe along those lines, then these things being down in the salt, like maybe it's preserving them. Is that maybe
That's
some...
exactly, yeah, because the only thing that's out there is salt. They're just,
That's
they've been
and imagine, if you will,
pickled
too,
in time. It's kind of how I
exactly.
described it.
Pickled in time.
It is.
They've been pickled, and now they get covered with silt, fine silts and deposits, and they're completely covered. So as the water disappears, that silt, as we know, and I mean, it can harden as hard as concrete in some incidences. And so, yeah, it would definitely encase everything, and if nothing else, keep the structure in place.
It's about 450 long, 75 feet wide. So we're
Yeah.
assuming it's anywhere from 30 to 60 feet deep still.
Yes.
Until we get, the permitting and
Yeah.
the funding and the assistance that we need to move forward with this. It'd be nice to just find someone. I've reached out to people like Graham Hancock and Joe Rogan and a lot of famous individuals that are kind of into this, and it's like it's been complete static, unfortunately. So I'm doing what I can. I want to kick off a YouTube channel and just do my own thing. Just, film a teaser reel, and then start shopping this with some networks and see who wants to take this serious, because I've spent a lot of time, a lot of money. I'm about 2.5 years now into this.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and it's just been almost every day just
Every day.
consumed by this, looking down different avenues. Like, it was a 6-month battle just to find an attorney that can even help with this whole entire situation, because we're in Utah and we don't have anybody who even knows this law. So the first guy I found was in Florida, the second one was out in Seattle, and then the third one was in Seattle as well. So it's been like, just trying to find people that even can assist with knowing what the do's and don'ts are on it.
Yeah.
It's been
So
crazy.
these things, they're 30 feet underground?
No, so the vessel, we're assuming, so if it's 450 feet long and it's 75 feet wide, I'm guessing there's still at least 30 to 60 feet of vessel still buried out there.
So how deep is like the top of it?
I think we're just sitting on the deck. So we're sitting flush on the deck, basically, is what we can see. So what we've gone out, we've actually looked, we went out, did a surface visual on it. We know it's there. We've got to get the right team out there now to go with us that's certified, because we're not permitted. We can't do any kind of archaeological study whatsoever, because it's got to go through
there is
certain
actual
chains.
there is actual markings out there that we can visually see.
Like from the surface?
Oh yeah, you
standing
can
on
see
the
it, because
surface,
envision
yes.
something that was buried out there that's now been surfacing for all these years. It's a non-native substance, so
You
it's
think
been.
it's rising?
Oh yeah.
Well, and because as the water moves in and out, it's going to slowly move all that material to a lower part, or to the lowest part of the lake, because it always will gravitate down. And so essentially, eventually, they will come to the surface, and things do come to the surface.
It's crazy, yeah.
And so have you guys been able to dig it all?
No digging, nope. We've
No
just
digging.
gone out there, did a surface visual on the area. We do need to find the right people to come out with this. Like I say, once they do the research, basically write the report on it, then we can file with the state and then get a permit to actually be out there and be with somebody that's licensed.
Yeah.
Because in order to do this kind of discoveries, it's either got to be a state, federal, or a private entity that's actually sanctioned with the state.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been, like I say, that's why I wanted to get, find the attorney so that I knew the do's and don'ts of, what I can and can't do. So,
Yeah. We didn't want to end up in prison before we could get it out,
Yeah, my attorney, he explained to me there's a fine line between fame, fortune, and federal prison. So, and I'm like, man, I don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, what do you do when say you find something? I mean, you found stuff. Like, what do you do? How do you know what to do with it?
So technically, you're supposed to leave it there, go report it to someone.
Yeah.
And I feel like I went above and beyond that. Like I tried to talk with everyone, with the state, the everyone laughed me off.
Even
I got a
when
report back that
we contacted BLM, and of course I contacted him. I know a lot of people in BLM, Forest Service, and he literally said that me and Brandon should go see a doctor and have our medication adjusted. Then 2 years later, he's calling me on the phone wanting to know why they don't know about this important discovery, and they wanted to be involved.
Well, and that's kind of what I mean. It's like, you discover something that could have huge cultural significance.
No, yeah, rewriting history.
You have to
we know it.
turn that over to the discoverers, or can you go discover something?
I believe that's what I'm working on, and that's why I had to get the attorneys, and I found out that because it doesn't actually touch a native body of water, I can't claim this under Finders Keepers law. That was I literally, that's why you and I were supposed to meet how many months ago? But it was like I had to push all of anything to do with the media, because I had to know before I started filming or talking about this. I didn't want somebody from Florida that does this for a living, is out there finding ships and claiming them to come to Utah and be like, hey, bro, so this is mine now.
Right.
So I had to go down that avenue. I did everything that I could. Nothing here. There's nobody that's going to come to the table and say, yes, Bonneville attached to Pacific Ocean. It's not going to happen. So that's the problem we ran into. So if you're, 100 miles or so up touching surrounding coastal lines, you can claim things. But if you're this far inland, you're just SOL. So it would just basically, it's going to go to a museum, is my guess. There's going to be some kind of museum that specializes in discoveries like this, that will allow things to be on display, and then something that I've envisioned is kind of like they use for pools, the outdoor pools that are wintertime. They put a big dome over them.
Yep.
Doing like an area where you can go in and actually see the archaeological discovery going on and get a visual on what's going on. You know, do some platforms above it so you could look down upon the actual ship that's coming back into. Dude, that'd be so awesome to just be able to go and see this and be a part of it. So I think this is a discovery.
Know how old it is.
Right.
And know for a fact how old it is. And that's the whole thing too is the age. It's out there.
Yeah.
But there's no other explanation. One guy, he tried to explain it to us. He told us those were bomb targets.
Oh, yeah. Some guy.
Bomb targets. I'm like, what?
You can't even hardly drive a four-wheeler out there.
Yeah,
and he's like trying to say that they were out there making these
There's no
huge.
tactical
I'm like, dude,
advantage to blowing up a pirate ship.
Yeah, exactly. Johnny Depp's out there.
Yeah.
RMAT.
Just testing cannons or something.
Seriously.
But we want everybody to know.
This is a discovery for the people. Yeah, it has to be seen. It has to be talked about.
Yeah.
I've been doing, 2.5 years ago, like I was adding myself on these ship hunting areas in Florida and Australia, and like people just laughing at me like, there's no way you found that there. And yet if you YouTube ships found, there's videos all about California area where they talk about ancient ships that have been like seen when the gold rush was going on. People are coming across the plains. There was ships talked about, documented. They were never able to make them back to them.
Do you mind if I show the pictures?
Oh, the ship, the lady of the ship. Yes,
first
100%.
of all, the ship. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, let's...
Can you kind of just walk me through it? Like what do you see there?
Yeah, so the ship is going to be 450 feet long, and then just behind it, the bowsprit, or basically the whole front of the ship, the beam where the sails would have been attached to, has actually been busted off. And you can see the lines still attached to the front of the ship, kind of trailing off to the backside and all.
The ropes, let's call them ropes, because you say lines, people might not know.
Oh, yeah.
And if you get a good close-up on the bow, you can actually see the shape of the shackle on the front of the ship right above the lady. And it's, as you follow the wreckage around, you can see everything on it. And that right there is actually the edge of one of the boats right there.
You can see the beam as it makes its...
That's the mast right off to the one side of the lady.
Okay. Yep.
Right there. And now, the interesting thing about them masts, the interesting thing about that mast right there is it is 400 feet long and one timber. Now, the yard arms are also 300 feet long and one timber. We can find no seamage in the imaging or anything else. And that's what will also help us kind of date them, because, something that big, like I was saying, like the tree, what is that?
The one mast and
Devil's
keel
Mountain?
section was, what did we figure? That was 1,000 feet, right?
Yep.
That one shows the width. Yep. Which is, I believe, it's 75 feet wide.
Yeah.
And then you've got another one that should, that's the length right there.
Yep.
450. And then you should see the lady. Yep.
So
So there's the lady.
lady.
And she's like 1/10 the scale of the ship.
And
So
if
if
you-
the ship was 450
Yeah.
feet, she's right in that wheelhouse of being perfect size for the
Yeah,
front of it.
50 feet. And if you look right above her head and to the right there a little bit, you can actually still see the shackle
Let's see if
attached to the ropes on the bow of the ship.
Yeah.
That's right at the tail end, about 200 feet behind the ship, the other image there.
Wow.
So there's actually, it's like just a boneyard of all sorts of different debris in that area.
Wow. That's crazy. Have you done a lot of, I'm guessing you've looked at a lot of regions out there on Google Earth, right? Like you've seen...
I've got about
Google Earth.
42,000 miles in the last 3 years out in the West Desert.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
not
been
only
crazy.
Google, but me and Brandon have been on several expeditions, we'll call them, where we have searched out and sought for other places.
Oh yeah, like Central Utah. We haven't been much further than about Central Utah, but everything's about Central Utah and West. It seems like everything has just been out there, just calling our name. Just
How much do you see that looks similar to this? And like I think you've heard. I think. Go ahead.
I can honestly say, because I have been treasure hunting for 35 years. I have been in many Spanish mines, many Indian mines, many Indian strip mine sites, and I have never seen anything that even close to the ships. I mean, it's amazing.
There's some cool stuff. There's a lot of cool
we-
symbols as well, like geoglyphs. Before I
Yeah.
found the ships, I was able to find a lot of geoglyphs that were in anywhere from 60 to 600 feet. And that's, ships and symbols is kind of what we've been going with so far.
So I'm sure that you have talked to some people who are skeptical about this. Like, what do people try to tell you that this is?
I've heard
one
so
guy,
much.
one guy, Brandon has been into it online with people several times.
Oh, yeah, that's when I learned that you'll get
But one-
days for...
one guy tried to say that the picture of the lady was
Oh, what did he...
a close up,
Yes.
a close up of his marble counter.
Yes.
Oh,
And then what's the other one? He said that I had... Oh, there's some...
A picture of somewhere like in New Zealand or something. Oh, that's
Yeah.
in New Zealand or some crap.
Yeah, because so I took a bow character and like used it in reference as this is what it's similar to.
Yeah.
And then somebody took the actual picture of a bow, that I used, and they're like, "Oh, this is BS. This is from here." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, like I'm using this as like in
Yeah.
representation too."
And that's another thing
Or-
with the representation. Our ladies on our ships are usually about anywhere from 13 to 18 feet long at the longest.
At max, yeah.
And our girl out there is how big?
The ladies 40. Yeah,
40
40 to
feet.
45. Yep. And I've had people. What is it called where you see faces? I've been told this a couple times. I have some kind of where you look at rocks and see faces, or what is that called? It slipped my mind. Anyways,
yeah, I don't know.
it cracks me up. I can't.
I've never been called it, and I look at rocks and see faces all the time.
Well,
And
yep, so
even
you
as
know.
an explorer too, I was always taught, and even my grandpa told me to always watch for the faces in the cliffs, and I really never understood what he said. But then as I started exploring Spanish stuff, the Spaniards, they were masters of hiding the obvious, I'll say. Because they would leave a skull in plain sight, and you would just think it was a natural rock. They would close up mine sites and entrances with some stuff they called caliche, and they made it out of the natural rock that was around there, and it would blend right into the cliff, and
Yeah,
you
just
would
mortar it closed. You wouldn't even
and
know
you
it was
would
there.
never even know it's there unless you
master
actually
masons.
know what you're kind of looking for.
Wow.
Which they did. So when they'd come back, they'd pop that cork off the mine and open it back up with their new round of slaves.
Huh.
Yeah, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I wish I even knew what to ask to get more into that.
I know
and
so many
I-
rabbit.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think the Spanish and the Indians and what went on between them for 400 years is a whole nother cast.
Well, yeah, because we don't appreciate all of this history. In fact, I've always I go back east and I'm like, oh, there's so much history here because everything here is like 150 years old max.
Yep.
But there's all that other history.
Yeah.
That's like we weren't talking about it. In fact, the people who were living here talking about it don't tell us about it.
No, definitely not.
Well,
Yeah, it's
and
hush
see,
hush.
And you want to talk about ancient history too. I seen a program the other day on TV, and it showed a bunch of artist pictures of the temple being built. And in many of them, in the background or in the foreground of some of them, is the cathedral already fully constructed. How did they build this most elaborate building like the cathedral? Because it's every bit as elaborate as the temple, if not more, in my eyes, and from what I see from an architecture standpoint. Why was it built or existing first before the temple if they came here to build the temple? So that was an interesting little tidbit that I noticed in the background of several of the pictures as well. There was huge Grecian, I'll call them, like pillars that were in the background of some of them pictures. And now where did they go to this day? What happened to them if they were actually there? Because I don't think the artists would have drawn them if they weren't there.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder because it goes back to civilizations before us once again.
That's crazy. It's like a hard thing, I think, in 2023 for people to think about actually discovering things. But you think back to the dinosaurs being discovered, and it was just some woman stumbling on a bone because she was in the right place to see it and stuff. So I mean, in history, that's how history and science changes all the time, right?
Yep.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's thankfully I've got some archaeologists that I've talked with, and the one guy is extremely into it. He just knows. He's like, man, I've told my colleagues this whole time, don't ever get set in the ways and what you're learning right now, because there might be a discovery tomorrow that completely blows out of the water. Your dates change, your time. So we've got to continually just be ready to change and, be able to view things as they are, because as proof comes to the surface, we have to take this for what it is. Like, they're truly there. Once we went there, that's when I was just, couldn't even quit. Like, I've just been.
He just, and actually Brandon walked around the lady in the bow of the ship and just stood there.
Oh, I was just
and I was absolutely in awe as well.
Yeah.
And that was, like Brandon was saying, things can change in just a heartbeat, because everything we know to be evident can be changed with our next discovery. And it's just that easy.
So you've spent all this money on lawyers to kind of figure out exactly how to approach this.
Yep.
And so the plan is to get some kind of archaeologist involved and sort of
yes, absolutely. Yep, that's
and hopefully a geologist as well.
Yep.
And really go out there and dig.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the plan, because otherwise we're just guessing. I definitely want to put together the proper team, go out there, do the GPR studies, ground penetrating radar, fly some drones over. We can get almost an exact, and probably put together almost a 3D mock-up of what we're looking at before we even try to excavate. Now we don't just go out there. We don't have to go out there willy-nilly and just start slicing into things and like pray that you don't destroy something. Like
which happens all the time.
People do. Yeah, it's still.
And I'm going to throw this in real quick. I was just down looking at Mayan ruins, and that's exactly what happened. Is they had no idea what they were digging on, and they literally destroyed half the side of one of the temples before they realized that they were actually digging up a ruin and killing it.
Wow.
Yeah,
so,
just destroying.
But we want to. We want to just be so careful. We want
preserve it, make sure that the people can see it.
Yeah.
And just like I say, I feel like this is just the story's gonna write its own.
It is.
It's already set in motion. We can't stop it now. So
no.
And so then your plan is, as you're doing all that, then let's record it.
Oh, 100%. And make a reality TV series about it.
Yeah,
let's just
buy that.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
I feel like a story that's going to rewrite history as we know it's probably going to be.
And honestly, and a lot of people have asked me, well, if this, because all my friends know, all my family knows, and I've been asked dozens of times, well, if this happens, you'd probably end up with a lot of money. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to open an animal rescue. All animals, all sizes, shapes.
100%.
I'm hoping to have a lot of money, enough money that I can have on-site veterinarians and caretakers 24/7.
It's actually a big thing here in Ogden. They just kicked the Wildlife Resource Center out of their building down
Really?
here, and so everyone's super mad about it.
So there's a need for it. There's definitely a need and desire. My thing is also like homelessness and this fentanyl disaster that's happening, man. Like I've
took my oldest
a lot
boy
of
to fentanyl.
Yeah, a lot of people have been down that road. A lot of people have been face first in it, and it's just I want to do what I can to just let people know, like, there's no reason to quit. Don't give up. Like, take the ambition that you have to go and get your fix tomorrow and put that towards finding history. That's exactly what I've done, and a lot of people that I know that are like, what else do I do? I'm just so bored with reality right now, because it just seems I don't know.
It's
most people are
real.
getting. Well, it's
or should I say it's plastic?
It's at our fingertips. Yeah, it is. It's at our fingertips now. Like getting that excitement button is so easy versus like you and I going out and making a discovery and like actually doing something to rewrite history instead of being told what you should believe about history.
Yeah,
that's
right. See, and now we're gonna come on and we'll show people history, but still, get out, do something, man.
Yeah. So I want to be proactive and assist people in moving forward. Some people definitely don't care to have any help or assistance, but I know a lot of people they don't want to be there. They don't want to be in that position. And if we can assist with that, like, let's do it.
Yeah.
We need to just get together as a, one race and just make it happen.
Yeah.
So,
and I've always been a firm believer that if I have way more than I need, I should share.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty enough for everybody on the earth if we all share our excess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. There's always been enough for the needy, just not enough for the greedy. So,
yep.
And I think this might fit into some stories in this world that I'm not even familiar with yet. Like I feel like I'm just a messenger on this. It's kind of weird. Like we talk about this all the time. I'm like, man, the universe is just talking with me on this, because I don't know where I come out with some of these ideas. Like I'll wake up in the morning and be like, holy cow, I'll have like this weird area and interest and get on Google Earth and zoom in and there's something there. And then he'd get a phone call and we'd like be
Yeah, we'd be
like
on
a
the phone for
4
hours
oh yeah,
at a
4
time.
hour
I'm
drive
on my
out.
computer, he's on his computer, and we
Yeah,
are
look at this
surfing and
area.
looking
Yeah,
at
we're
stuff,
trying to
and
like
it's-
pinpoint different areas of interest, symbols, trying to basically decipher what's going on out there.
And then
There's
gone out and checked them out in person too to actually verify, because you can see an anomaly on Google Earth and assume what it is.
I've drove out to a
But
lot of
until
shadows.
you actually put your feet
Yeah,
on that 600-foot turtle,
yeah, that one was cool.
there's an amazing thing
That's
when
wild.
you see it.
Yep, there's some pretty cool
You know?
ancient symbols that
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk more about.
Wow.
Yeah, because so
Me
the ships
too.
are cool, but the symbols, like I say, that's just a whole different show.
Yeah, that's a
I
whole
think that's a whole different because that's
Right.
Wow.
You sent me some of those
I know
other things.
it's
But I'm curious about this other thing that it's like you guys sound like you've talked to almost everybody you can about it, and so I'm guessing that you talk to maybe a museum or like it seems to me there are people who order those kinds of imaging who would hear this kind of thing and be like, oh, let's do that, let's jump on that. And has it not happened because it like doesn't fit into there's a Native American museum, but they're like, well, this isn't Native American, that doesn't even fit in with what we're saying. You know what I mean?
And
Yeah.
I think the problem that we've run into, and like I said before, it's the time. The time.
it doesn't
Can't
fit
be
it doesn't fit the
possible
model
because
for
of the
most.
time, and people think we're crazy, and
Absolutely.
they think we're off the wall, and that we're just seeing images, and
I've got an email that says the largest thing that was ever discovered was a canoe out west. and
Yeah,
I'm like,
and
what?
it's-
Like I try to report this to them and they're just like, I'm
yeah,
just like,
And they're like,
exactly.
well, I stood on it, so it's
I know.
all-
I know. I'm like, well,
And-
can't get much more real. Like, I'm going to paddle this thing home then.
and that was the thing too, is even the BLM thought that they were just going to go out and stand on a ship out there. They have never once even thought to recognize that the ground's flat. The ground's
Everything,
flat
yeah.
for miles, and it is so cool when the vapors
Oh, yeah.
are coming off. It feels like
Oh,
you're
the mirage?
actually in
Yeah,
a,
dude, it
in
feels
a
like
bowl
you're-
of water.
For like
And-
40 minutes, you're just like driving. It feels like you're in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
And you just, all you see are the ripples from the mirage, and you just see islands basically when you're in the middle.
Yeah.
When we went to it was we drove past it 7 miles. I thought I was going to drive into a ship just
Yeah.
sitting on the surface.
Really?
No. Oh, we drove like all of a sudden we drove and drove and drove and finally like opened our phones up and realized like, oh shit, like I guess we better pay a little closer attention.
Yeah, because we
and then
thought
once we got
would-
to it and
that's
parked,
what we thought is we would actually drive up to a ship.
I thought it would be sitting on the surface. Like I would see a ship just chilling there. Like, hey, here I am. No, we like, see ya. 7 miles later, we better make a U-turn.
Wow.
Just being able to get these ships out, excuse me, to get these ships out there and get the information out there and open people's eyes to really how long we've been here.
Things are definitely predating what we
These-
say. You know, it's like
These aren't
Christopher Columbus who. That's,
yeah, we're not
That's how I
talking
feel
about
now.
super gods and aliens and all this other stuff. We're talking about mankind 70, 80, 90,000 years ago.
Huh. So you guys are looking for like some kind of partners now, like archaeologists, people who can
Yes.
help with the imaging technology. Is that kind of what you're
Absolutely.
looking for now?
Yeah,
Yes,
the
yes.
GPR studies are. I didn't realize how expensive they were going to be. I mean,
And my GPR units, like
30
I
to
said,
60,000 is what they were quoting to just go out and do some fly arounds, and it's So what, we need to find somebody that's willing to assist with getting the imagery, and then continuing the research on this.
Well, all right. I hope we can spark some interest from the people.
we
I
hope
appreciate
so
this.
too. And that's
Yeah, thanks
why
for
we
the
came all
opportunity to
this
come
way
in.
up here to
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
coming up.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.